feel the ceremony before I heard it. A vibration in the floorboards beneath my bare feet. The scent of wild herbs and incense hanging in the air like invisible curtains. My hands trembled as I braided my pale blonde hair, fingers working from memory rather than sight. Today was the mating ceremony, an ancient ritual where unmated female wolves would present themselves to the Alpha King, hoping to be chosen as his mate. His queen, Arya, you shouldn't even be here. My sister Nora's voice came from somewhere near the doorway, sharp with concern. This is madness. The Alpha King won't choose someone who can't see. I finished for her, my voice softer than I intended. I know what I am, Nora. The blindness had come when I was 12, after a fever that nearly claimed my life. I survived, but at a cost. Darkness became my constant companion, though sometimes I swore I could feel shapes and energies, like shadows moving against shadows. Our pack healer called it wolf sense, the way our kind could perceive beyond human limitations. But even wolf sense couldn't restore what I'd lost. I ran my fingers over the small wooden pendant hanging around my neck, a wolf carved by my grandmother before she died. Remember, she'd whispered to me once, true sight comes from within. The pendant was my talisman, my reminder that there were many ways to see the world. The ceremony starts in an hour. Nora sighed, coming closer. I could smell her jasmine perfume, could sense her standing over me. Father says you don't have to attend. No one would think less of you. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Everyone already thinks less of me, Nora. The blind Omega, the broken wolf. I stood, smoothing down the simple blue dress I'd chosen. At least let me be rejected properly, with dignity, instead of hiding away like I'm ashamed. Being an Omega in a world of alphas and betas was difficult enough. We were the peacekeepers, the nurturers. Valuable, yes, but never leaders, never warriors. Add blindness to that, and I became something worse than invisible. I became pitied. The great hall buzzed with hundreds of voices when we arrived. I clung to Nora's arm, trying to appear more confident than I felt as we moved through the crowd. The smells overwhelmed me. Perfumes and sweat, excitement and fear, all mingling into a dizzying cloud. The sound of drums grew louder, signaling the ceremony would soon begin. He's here, Nora whispered, her body tensing beside me. The Alpha King. The hall fell silent, so complete it seemed everyone had stopped breathing. Heavy footsteps echoed across stone floors, deliberate, unhurried. Even without sight, I could feel the power radiating from him as he passed, like standing too close to a fire. Ladies of the United Packs, a deep voice announced. Not the king's, but his beta, his second in command. Today, Alpha King Evander seeks his mate, his equal, his queen. Let the ceremony begin. One by one, women were called forward. I listened as they introduced themselves, voices ranging from trembling whispers to practiced confidence. Each followed by a brief silence, then the same response. The Alpha King thanks you for your courage. Polite rejection. Hours passed. My legs ached from standing. Beside me, Nora shifted impatiently. This is taking forever, she murmured. There must be 200 women here, and he hasn't shown interest in any of them. I nodded, distracted by an odd sensation crawling up my spine. Something had changed in the room, a tension, a weight in the air. I could feel it pressing against my skin. What's happening? I whispered. It's the Alpha King, Nora said. He looks angry, bored, like he's about to end the ceremony without choosing anyone. My heart raced. I hadn't come here truly believing I'd be chosen. That would be foolish, but I had come seeking something else. A moment to stand before my people, not as the broken Omega, but simply as Arya, a chance to be seen, truly seen, perhaps for the first time since losing my sight. Nora, I said, my voice suddenly steady. Take me forward. What? No, Arya. Please, I cut her off. I need to do this. Her hand tightened around mine, hesitating. Then she sighed. Very well. We moved forward, the crowd parting around us. I could hear the whispers, pitying, mocking, confused. My cheeks burned, but I kept my chin high, my unseeing eyes straight ahead. "State your name," the beta commanded when we stopped. "Arya of the Northern Lakes Pack," I said, my voice clear despite my racing heart. "Daughter of Counselor Thomas." A heavy silence followed, longer than with the others. I stood perfectly still, feeling the weight of unseen eyes upon me. "You're blind," the Alpha King spoke for the first time, his voice deep and rough, like stones rolling together. Not a question, a statement. "Yes, Alpha King," I answered. "And yet you come before me as a potential mate?" A dangerous edge sharpened his words. The hall held its breath. I could sense Nora's fear beside me, could feel the tension radiating from every corner. I reached up, fingers finding my grandmother's pendant. "I come before you as a wolf of the Northern Lakes Pack," I said carefully. "Blindness has taken my sight, but not my worth." Someone in the crowd gasped. Speaking to the Alpha King with anything less than complete deference was dangerous, but something compelled me forward, past caution, past sense. "I don't pity myself, Alpha King, and I don't seek your pity. I came today because hiding away changes nothing. I am what I am, blind, Omega, but still part of this pack. Still worthy of standing on these stones." The silence that followed felt eternal. I braced myself for anger, for dismissal, for humiliation. Instead, his voice came softer, curious. "You speak boldly for an Omega." "Perhaps because I've had to become bold to survive," I answered honestly. He moved closer. I could feel his heat, smell pine and smoke and something wild beneath. My wolf stirred within me, suddenly alert, suddenly aware in a way I'd never experienced. "Look at me," he commanded. A bitter smile touched my lips. "I cannot." "Try," he insisted, his voice leaving no room for refusal. I lifted my face toward his voice, my unseeing eyes searching the darkness that had been my world for years, and for a heartbeat. Just one. I thought I saw something, not with my eyes, but with that strange wolf sense. A shadow against shadows, a presence so powerful it seemed to bend the air around it. "What do you see?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Nothing," I admitted. "And everything. I feel your presence, your strength, I hesitated, uncertain of the impression pushing against my consciousness. "Your loneliness." The hall erupted in murmurs. I'd gone too far, said too much. Nora's fingers dug into my arm, warning, frightened. But the Alpha King didn't respond with anger. Instead, he laughed, a short, surprised sound that silenced the crowd instantly. "Interesting," he said, and I could hear something new in his voice. Curiosity, perhaps, or challenge. "Very interesting." He stepped away, addressing the hall. "The ceremony is concluded for today. I thank all who presented themselves." Confused whispers rippled through the crowd. This wasn't how the ceremony was supposed to end. He was meant to choose someone, or at least narrow his selection. "Come," Nora whispered urgently, pulling me back into the crowd. "Let's go before he changes his mind and punishes you for your impudence." I allowed her to lead me away, my mind spinning. What had just happened? What had I felt in that strange moment when he'd commanded me to look at him? We were nearly at the doors when a hand clasped my shoulder, stopping me. I smelled citrus and leather, the beta. "The Alpha King requests your presence," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "Alone." Nora's grip on my arm tightened. "My sister needs me to guide her." "I'll guide her," the beta replied firmly. I squeezed Nora's hand. "It's all right. Go home and tell Father I've been summoned. Tell him." I swallowed hard. "Tell him I'll be fine." "Arya," she protested, her voice thick with worry. "Please, Nora." After a moment's hesitation, she released me. The beta's hand replaced hers on my arm, his grip impersonal but careful, as he led me away from the retreating crowd, deeper into the great hall and through passages I didn't know existed. The air grew cooler, the sounds of the ceremony fading behind us. "Where are you taking me?" I asked, my initial courage beginning to waver. "To the Alpha King's private chambers," he answered simply. My heart stuttered. "Why?" The beta didn't answer, just continued guiding me through what felt like a maze of hallways and doors. Finally, we stopped. He knocked once on what must have been a door, then opened it without waiting for a response. "The Omega, as requested," he announced, then placed my hand against a wall. "Follow this to the chair in the center of the room. The Alpha King will join you shortly." With that, he was gone, the door closing behind him with a soft but final click. I stood frozen for a moment, my fingers pressed against the smooth stone wall. My other hand found my grandmother's pendant again, clutching it like a lifeline. What had I done? Why was I here? Was this punishment for my boldness? Or something else entirely? Taking a deep breath, I followed the wall until I found the promised chair, large and cushioned, positioned in what seemed to be the center of a spacious room. I sat, my back straight, my hands folded in my lap, and waited. Time stretched. I focused on my breathing, on the strange new sensations that had awakened within me during the ceremony. That moment when I'd almost seen him, not with my eyes, but with something deeper, something primal. I didn't hear him enter, but suddenly I knew he was there. The air changed, thickened with his presence. "You intrigue me, blind Omega," the Alpha King said, his voice coming from somewhere across the room. "And very few things intrigue me anymore." I turned my face toward his voice. "I don't understand why I'm here, Alpha King." "Call me Evander," he said, moving closer. "And you're here because you were the only honest person in that entire hall today. I don't understand. 200 women paraded before me," he said, his voice hardening. Each one telling me what they thought I wanted to hear. Each one seeking power, position, status, none seeking me. He paused, and I heard him circle my chair. "But you came seeking nothing but your own dignity. You spoke to me not as a king, but as a wolf, as an equal." My mouth went dry. "That's dangerous talk, Alpha King. Evander, I'm an Omega, a blind Omega. I could never be your equal." He stopped directly in front of me. I could feel his gaze, heavy as a physical touch. "And yet," he said softly, "you're the only one who saw me." "I didn't see you," I protested. "I can't see anything." "You saw what matters," Evander replied, his voice closer now. I sensed him crouching before me, bringing us to eye level. "You called me lonely. No one has dared speak such a truth to me in years." His words hung in the air between us. I didn't know how to respond. Had I truly sensed his loneliness? Or had it been my imagination, a projection of my own isolation? Either way, I'd spoken it aloud, a dangerous intimacy with the most powerful wolf in all the territories. "I apologize if I offended you," I said carefully. "Offense requires caring about others' opinions," he said, a dry amusement in his tone. I stopped caring long ago. I heard him rise and move away, footsteps silent on what must have been thick carpet. Something clinked, glass against glass, the sound of liquid pouring. "Wine?" he offered. "No, thank you." My hands twisted nervously in my lap. "May I ask why you've brought me here? Surely not just to discuss my observation." "Direct as well as bold," he remarked. I heard him take a sip. "Very well. I brought you here because I'm considering you as my mate." The word struck me like a physical blow. I stood abruptly, nearly toppling the chair behind me. "That's not funny." "I'm not known for my humor," he replied evenly. "This is absurd," I said, my voice rising despite my efforts to control it. "You can't possibly want a blind Omega as your queen. The Pax would never accept it. Your own council would rebel, and yet here we are." His voice hardened slightly. "Sit down, Arya." It wasn't an alpha command. He wasn't forcing my obedience. But the authority in his voice compelled me all the same. I found the chair again and perched on its edge. "The mating ceremony is a tradition older than the United Pax," Evander continued, his voice taking on a lecturing quality. "Its purpose is not for the Alpha King to find a pretty face or strong bloodline. It's to find compatibility, a true mate bond. My grandmother had told me stories of true mate bonds when I was small. Rare connections between wolves whose spirits recognized each other, whose strengths balanced each other's weaknesses. The stuff of legends, most believed now." "And you think that's what this is?" I asked, skepticism clear in my voice. Some mystical connection? What I think, he said carefully, is that something happened when you stood before me. Something I've never felt with anyone else. And I want to understand what it was. I fingered my pendant again, trying to process his words. So this isn't about choosing me as your mate. It's about curiosity. For now, yes. His honesty was refreshing, if brutal. I don't know you, area of the Northern Lakes. And you certainly don't know me. A strange laugh escaped me. That's the most sensible thing you've said yet. His answering chuckle surprised me. Deep and genuine. Few would dare speak to me so plainly. Perhaps that's your problem, I said before I could stop myself. Perhaps you've surrounded yourself with people too afraid to tell you the truth. Silence followed my words. I held my breath, wondering if I'd finally pushed too far. Perhaps, he agreed quietly. Tell me about your blindness. The abrupt change of subject threw me. What do you want to know? How it happened? How you've adapted? What you mean when you say you feel things rather than see them? I hesitated, unused to discussing my condition so directly. Most people avoided the topic entirely, as if blindness were contagious. I was 12. I began tentatively. There was a fever that spread through our pack. Many died. I survived, but the fever damaged something in my brain. The pack healer said I was lucky. Some who survived lost their hearing or the ability to walk. Lucky, Evander repeated, a question in his tone. That's what they told me. I shrugged. It didn't feel lucky at first, but yes, eventually I came to see it that way. I adapted. I learned to navigate by sound, by smell, by touch, and sometimes I paused, uncertain how to explain. Sometimes I sense things, energies, presences, like shadows moving against the darkness. Our healer calls it wolf sense, your wolf compensating for what your human form lost, he mused. Fascinating. Something in his tone made me tilt my head. You sound like you're studying a peculiar specimen. He moved closer again, his scent enveloping me, pine and smoke and something elemental. Like ozone before a storm, you're certainly peculiar, aria of the Northern Lakes. But not in the way you think. My breath caught as I felt him circle behind my chair. His fingers brushed my hair, so lightly I might have imagined it. Your sister called you an omega, he said. But that's not quite right, is it? The question sent a chill down my spine. I don't know what you mean. I think you do. His voice had dropped lower, intimate. True omegas are rare, Arya. Most who call themselves omegas are simply submissive betas. But you... His hand came to rest on my shoulder, warm and heavy. You carry the omega spark, I can sense it. I swallowed hard. He was right, though I'd never admitted it to anyone. The pack healer had identified it when I was 16, then advised my father to keep it secret. True omegas were valuable, too valuable. They could be kidnapped, forced into bonds with alphas seeking to strengthen their bloodlines. How did you know? I whispered. I've met only 2 others in my lifetime, he said. There's a quality to your presence, a stillness at your center, like the eye of a storm. It calls to the alpha nature, soothes it, balances it. His hand remained on my shoulder, his touch burning through the thin fabric of my dress. I should have been frightened. I was alone with the most powerful alpha in the territories, who had just discovered my most carefully guarded secret. Instead, I felt oddly calm, as if some part of me had been waiting for this moment. Is that why you brought me here? I asked. Because you sensed I'm a true omega? No, he said, removing his hand. I heard him move to stand before me again. I brought you here because you saw me, really saw me, when no one else did. The Omega Spark explains how, perhaps, but not why it matters. A knock at the door interrupted us. Evander moved away, his footsteps silent again. Enter, he commanded. The door opened. Alpha King, came the beta's voice. The council has assembled as requested. Thank you, Ren. Tell them I'll join shortly. The door closed again. I stood, suddenly feeling the impropriety of being alone in the Alpha King's chambers. I should go. You'll stay in the palace tonight, Evander said, his tone making it clear this wasn't a request. Ren will show you to guest quarters. My family will worry, I protested. They've been informed of your whereabouts. He moved closer again, his voice softening slightly. Rest. Tomorrow we'll talk more. About what? I asked, confused by the rapid turn of events. About what happens next, he said simply. Then, to my shock, his fingers brushed my cheek, a touch so brief I might have dreamed it. Good night, Arya. The beta, Ren, returned to escort me to guest quarters more luxurious than any place I'd ever stayed. A female servant helped me explore the room, describing the massive canopied bed, the sitting area with plush chairs, the private bathing chamber with heated water piped directly from hot springs beneath the palace. The Alpha King has requested a selection of garments be brought for you, she explained, guiding my hands to feel the silks and velvets laid out on the bed. And there will be someone to assist you with dressing in the morning. After she left, I sat on the edge of the bed, overwhelmed. What was happening? Why was the Alpha King treating me as an honored guest, rather than sending me home? And what did he mean by, what happens next? Sleep eluded me that night. I lay awake, replaying every moment of my encounter with Evander. His voice, his scent, the brief touches that had sent unexpected warmth coursing through me, the way he'd identified me as a true Omega with such certainty, the loneliness I'd sensed in him. A loneliness that echoed my own. Morning arrived with a knock at my door. The same servant from the previous night, bringing breakfast and offering assistance with bathing and dressing. I accepted her help, allowing her to guide me through the unfamiliar bathing chamber and help me into a dress that felt lighter and finer than anything I'd ever worn. It's emerald green, she told me, as she arranged my hair in an elegant style I could feel but not see. The Alpha King specifically requested this color. Why? I asked, touching the silky fabric. I sensed her hesitation. It's said to match your eyes, miss. My eyes. Pale green, Nora had always told me. The color of new leaves in spring. A strange ache formed in my chest at the thought of Evander choosing a dress to match eyes that would never see it. After the servant left, Ren arrived to escort me, not to Evander's chambers, as I'd expected, but to the palace gardens. The Alpha King awaits you by the eastern fountain, he explained, offering his arm to guide me along stone pathways. Birds sang around us, and the air was heavy with the scent of flowers I couldn't name. When we stopped, I could hear the musical splash of water. Thank you, Ren. Evander's voice came from nearby. That will be all. Footsteps retreated, leaving us alone. I stood uncertainly, my hands clasped before me. The dress suits you, Evander said. So I'm told, I replied. Though I'll have to take your word for it. He moved closer. May I? His hand touched mine, and when I didn't pull away, he guided me forward. The fountain is just here, made of white marble, carved with wolves running through forests. He placed my hand on cool, smooth stone, helping my fingers trace the carvings he described. It was a strangely intimate moment, his hand guiding mine, his voice close to my ear, describing what I couldn't see. No one had ever done this for me before. Helped me see through touch in this deliberate way. Thank you, I said softly when he finally released my hand. For showing me. I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, he replied, moving away slightly. I heard him sit on what must have been a bench. About sensing things rather than seeing them. I found the bench and sat beside him, careful to leave space between us. What about it? I wonder if it could be developed, this wolf sense of yours, strengthened, like a muscle. I frowned. Why would that matter to you? Because I'm still considering you as my mate, he said bluntly. My breath caught. You can't be serious. You barely know me. That can be remedied with time, he countered. What cannot be manufactured is the connection I felt yesterday, the way your presence affected me. That's rare, Arya, perhaps unique. Because I'm a true Omega? I asked, confusion and frustration building within me. Is that all this is? You sensing a rare breeding opportunity? His silence told me I'd angered him. When he spoke again, his voice had cooled considerably. If that were my only concern, there are 2 other true Omegas within the United Territories, both with perfect vision, both from strong bloodlines. I flushed with embarrassment. I apologize for assuming. No, he cut me off. You're right to question. An omega-alpha pairing is significant, especially for a ruling pair, but that's not why I've brought you here. Kept you here. He paused, and I heard him exhale slowly. The truth is, I don't fully understand it myself. I only know that when you stood before me yesterday, something changed, and I need to understand what and why. We sat in silence for a long moment, the sound of the fountain filling the space between us. Birds called overhead, and somewhere in the distance, voices drifted on the breeze, palace staff going about their duties, unaware of the strange conversation taking place in the garden. So what happens now? I finally asked. You keep me here while you figure things out? No, Evander said. Now I court you properly. A startled laugh escaped me. Court me? Like in the old stories? The old ways have merit, he replied, a hint of defensiveness in his tone. And they give us time to know each other, time to understand whatever this connection might be. I shook my head, struggling to process his words. This is madness. I'm the daughter of a minor counselor from a small northern pack. I'm blind. The other packs would never accept me as your queen. Let me worry about the other packs, he said, his voice hardening slightly. The question is whether you're willing to be courted. The question hung between us, heavy with implications. Was I willing? The sensible answer was no. I should thank him for his unexpected interest, return to my family, and continue my quiet life. But something about him called to me. Something beyond his power or position. That sense of recognition, of seeing and being seen, despite my blindness. I don't know, I answered honestly. This is overwhelming. Fair enough. His tone softened. I'm not asking for your answer now, just your willingness to consider the possibility. Before I could respond, footsteps approached rapidly on the stone path. Alpha King, came Ren's voice, tense with urgency. Forgive the interruption, but there's news from the border. Southern raiders have attacked one of the outlying villages. Evander stood abruptly. Casualties? Unknown, but the village was nearly destroyed. Survivors are being brought to the palace now. Prepare the healers, Evander ordered. His voice transformed. Harder, colder, the voice of a ruler rather than the man who had just been speaking so intimately with me. Alert the War Council. I want extra patrols on all southern approaches. Already done, Alpha King. Good. A moment of silence. Then Evander's hand touched my shoulder briefly. Arya, I must attend to this. Ren will escort you back to your quarters. Wait, I said, rising to my feet. These survivors, they'll need help. I may be blind, but I've assisted our pack healer since I was 14. I know how to treat wounds, how to comfort the injured. Another silence, heavier this time. I could almost feel Evander's evaluation, his reconsideration of me. Very well, he said finally. Ren, take Arya to the healing chambers. Tell Master Thorn she's to be given whatever assistance she requires. Yes, Alpha King. Evander's presence withdrew. I felt it like a physical absence. And then Ren's hand was on my arm, guiding me swiftly through the gardens and back into the palace. We moved at a near run through corridors that echoed with urgent voices and hurrying footsteps. The healing chambers smelled of herbs and blood when we arrived. Already I could hear the moans of the injured, the soothing murmurs of healers at work. Master Thorn? Ren called out. The Alpha King sends this Omega to assist. She has healing experience, a gruff voice answered from nearby. We need every hand, but how can a blind woman help us? Before Ren could respond, I stepped forward. I can prepare poultices and tinctures by scent and touch. I can comfort the frightened with my voice. I can hold pressure on wounds. Tell me what you need, and I'll do it. A moment's hesitation then. Very well. We've wounded arriving by the minute. Burns, slash wounds, broken bones. Can you prepare burn salve? Yes, I said confidently. I need comfrey root, calendula, honey, and lavender oil. Show me to your supplies. For the next several hours, I lost myself in the work. Master Thorn quickly discovered I hadn't exaggerated my skills. My heightened sense of smell allowed me to identify herbs faster than most sighted healers, and my sensitive fingers were adept at detecting the severity of wounds through touch. I prepared medicines, bandaged injuries, and spoke soothingly to terrified children separated from their parents in the chaos of the attack. The stories I gathered from the survivors painted a grim picture. The raiders had come before dawn, setting fire to homes while people slept, cutting down those who tried to flee. They weren't simply bandits. This had been a coordinated attack. "They took some of us," one woman sobbed as I cleaned a deep gash on her arm. "My sister. Her daughters. Just took them." "Slavers," an old man nearby spat. "Southern wolves selling our people to human traders across the sea." "Be quiet," someone else hissed. "That's just rumors." But I'd heard these rumors before, whispered among the northern packs. Stories of wolves disappearing from border villages, of southern packs growing wealthy from mysterious trade with human kingdoms beyond our territories. As the day wore on, the flow of new wounded slowed. The most serious cases had been treated, the dead respectfully covered and moved to a separate chamber. I was washing blood from my hands in a basin when I sensed a familiar presence. "You've impressed Master Thorn," Evander said quietly. "He's not easily impressed." I turned toward his voice, suddenly aware of my exhaustion. My dress, the beautiful green silk, was ruined, stained with blood and herbs. My hair had come loose from its elegant arrangement, falling in tangled strands around my face. "These people," I said, my voice hoarse from hours of offering comfort. "What will happen to them?" "They'll stay here until we can determine if their village can be rebuilt," he answered. "If not, they'll be absorbed into other packs." I nodded, then swayed slightly on my feet. Instantly, Evander was beside me, his hand steadying my elbow. "You need rest," he said. "You've been working for hours." "So have the other healers," I protested weakly. "And they're resting too," he countered. "Come." He guided me from the healing chambers, his touch careful but firm. We moved through quieter corridors now, the earlier urgency of the palace having settled into a grim efficiency. "Was it really southern wolves?" I asked as we walked. "The attackers?" Evander's step faltered slightly. "What have you heard?" "Rumors. About slavers. About southern packs selling our people to humans across the sea." His hand tightened on my arm momentarily. "You have good ears. People speak freely around the blind," I said. "They forget I'm listening." "It's an advantage I hadn't considered," he mused, then sighed heavily. "Yes, we believe the southern packs are involved, but we lack proof. Proof the council needs before sanctioning action against them." We'd stopped walking. I realized we were not at my guest quarters, but somewhere else entirely. The air smelled different here, like old paper and leather. "Where are we?" I asked. "My private study," Evander replied. "I thought we might talk more comfortably here." He guided me to a chair, deep and cushioned, near what felt like a fireplace, its warmth touching my face. I heard him moving around, the clink of glass again, then the sound of liquid being poured. "Water this time," he said, placing a cool glass in my hand. "You need it after your work today." I drank gratefully, only now realizing how thirsty I was. Evander settled in what seemed to be a chair opposite mine. "You surprised me today," he said after a moment. "Your skill with the wounded, your composure. Did you think me helpless because I'm blind?" I couldn't keep the edge from my voice. "No," he answered thoughtfully, "but I didn't expect such competence, such purpose." He paused. "You found your calling as a healer, didn't you, after losing your sight?" I nodded slowly. "It gave me a way to be useful again. To contribute, more than contribute," he corrected. "I watched you today. People calmed at your touch, trusted your voice. That's not just skill. That's your nature as a true Omega, the ability to soothe, to bring peace even in chaos." I'd never thought of it that way, had always attributed any success I had as a healer to practice and determination, not some innate quality of my wolf nature. "If that's true," I said carefully, "then perhaps I serve a greater purpose where I am, with my pack, assisting our healer, perhaps." He conceded. "But I wonder if that's all you're meant for." I set my empty glass aside, suddenly uncomfortable with the direction of our conversation. "You speak as if my fate is predetermined, as if I have no choice in it." "Everyone has choices," Evander said, his voice dropping lower. But some choices align more closely with our true nature than others. And you believe my true nature aligns with being your mate? I challenged. A blind queen for the United Pax? I believe, he said carefully, that what I felt when you stood before me yesterday was significant. I believe your abilities, both as an Omega and as someone who sees the world differently, could be valuable not just to me, but to all the Pax. He shifted in his chair. The attack today is not isolated, Arya. The Southern Pax grow bolder. War looms. In such times, perhaps what we need is not just strength, but balance, healing, peace. His words stirred something deep within me, a longing I'd buried years ago after losing my sight, a longing to be more than just tolerated or pitied, to make a real difference in the world. I don't know if I can be what you want, I said softly. I don't know what I want, he admitted, surprising me with his candor. Only that when you're near, things become clearer, like a fog lifting. We sat in silence for a long moment, the fire crackling gently beside us. I felt strangely comfortable here in his private space, despite the tension of our conversation. Tell me about yourself, I said suddenly. Not the Alpha King everyone fears. You, he laughed, a short, startled sound. No one has asked me that in years. Then it's long overdue. His chair creaked as he leaned back. What do you want to know? Anything. Everything. What makes you happy? What do you fear? Who were you before you became king? He was quiet so long I thought he might not answer. Then, softly, I was a second son, never meant to rule. My brother was the heir, stronger, more charismatic, better suited to leadership in every way. What happened to him? I asked gently. Southern raiders, he said, bitterness seeping into his tone. 10 years ago, he led a border patrol that never returned. Understanding dawned. That's why you take these attacks so personally. Yes. The word was clipped, final. After his death, I had to become someone else, someone harder. The pack, all the Pax, needed strength, not the scholar I had been. Scholar. I couldn't keep the surprise from my voice. Another short laugh. Hard to imagine, isn't it? But yes, I loved history, languages, old texts, spent more time in libraries than training grounds, much to my father's dismay. I smiled, trying to reconcile this image with the powerful, intimidating presence I'd sensed in the ceremony hall. And now? Now I am what the Pax need me to be, he said simply. At the cost of who you really are, I murmured. His silence was answer enough. As for what makes me happy, he continued after a moment, his voice softer. Small moments of peace, dawn light on the mountains, the archives beneath the palace, where I still steal away sometimes to read the ancient texts. He paused. And yesterday, when you saw my loneliness without me having to speak it, that made me feel something I'd forgotten was possible. My heart thumped painfully in my chest. There was such vulnerability in his admission, from a man who likely showed vulnerability to no one. And what do I fear? He went on, his voice dropping to nearly a whisper. Failing. Losing more of our people to the Southern wolves. Making the wrong decision and watching the United Pax fall apart because of it. Another pause. Being alone in this until the end of my days. I reached out instinctively, my hand finding his in the space between our chairs. His fingers were warm, strong, closing around mine with gentle pressure. Thank you, I said, for trusting me with the truth. It's strange, he replied, not releasing my hand. I've known you 2 days, yet I've told you things I've never spoken aloud to anyone. Perhaps that's the Omega effect you mentioned, I suggested, making it safe for alphas to show vulnerability. Perhaps, he agreed. Or perhaps it's simply you, Arya. The way he said my name sent a shiver through me. We sat like that, hands joined, for several long minutes. The fire crackled. Somewhere in the palace, a bell chimed the hour. It's late, Evander finally said, reluctantly releasing my hand. You should rest. You've had a demanding day. Yes, I agreed, suddenly aware again of my exhaustion, the stains on my dress, the tangles in my hair. I should. He stood and helped me to my feet. As he guided me toward the door, his hand resting lightly at the small of my back, I felt again that strange recognition, as if some part of me had been waiting for this. For him, without my knowing it. "Arya," he said as we reached the door, "will you dine with me tomorrow evening? Just the two of us?" The question hung in the air. A choice point, to step further down this unexpected path, or to retreat to the safety of what I knew. "Yes," I answered, my voice steadier than I felt. "I will." The next day passed in a blur of activity. Word of my assistance in the healing chambers had spread, and Master Thorn requested my help again with the wounded. I worked alongside the palace healers, my fingers mixing herbs, binding wounds, my voice soothing frightened children. By midday, I'd earned enough respect that no one questioned my presence or abilities. "You have a gift," Master Thorn told me as we worked side by side, preparing fresh bandages. His gruff voice had softened considerably since the day before. "A true healer's touch. Thank you," I replied, warmed by his approval. My pack's healer said something similar when she first began training me. She was right. I heard him shift beside me. "The Alpha King came by earlier, watching you work. Did you know?" My hand stilled. "No, I didn't sense him." "He stayed at a distance," Thorn explained. "Didn't want to disturb you, but he watched for quite some time." My cheeks heated at the thought of Evander observing me unawares. What had he seen? What had he thought? "There are rumors," Thorn continued carefully, "about why you remain at the palace." I resumed my work, fingers methodically folding clean linen strips. "I imagine there are. They say the Alpha King is considering you as his mate." Thorn's voice remained neutral, betraying neither approval nor disapproval. "And what do you think of such rumors?" I asked, genuinely curious about the palace staff's reaction. Thorn was quiet for a moment. "I think," he finally said, "that an Alpha King who would choose a healer as his queen might understand that ruling is not just about power, but about caring for the wounded. And I think a blind Omega who sees beyond physical appearances might be exactly what he needs." His words stayed with me throughout the afternoon. Through the bath the servants prepared for me. Through the careful dressing and arranging of my hair for the evening's dinner. The servant who assisted me described each garment in detail, allowing me to choose a dress of deep blue silk that she assured me complemented my pale hair and skin. "You look beautiful, miss," she said when the preparations were complete. "The Alpha King will be pleased. What's your name?" I asked suddenly, realizing I'd been attended by this same young woman since arriving at the palace, yet hadn't bothered to learn who she was. "Mira, miss," she answered, surprise evident in her voice. "Thank you, Mira," I said warmly, "for all your help these past days." "It's my honor," she replied, sounding genuinely pleased. "The servants are talking, you know, about you, about how you helped the wounded. We've never seen an Omega like you before." "I'm just trying to be useful," I demurred. "It's more than that," Mira insisted. "You care, truly care. That's rare in the palace." Before I could respond, a knock sounded at the door. Mira hurried to answer it. "The Alpha King requests Lady Arya's presence for dinner," came Ren's formal announcement. Mira guided me to the door, pressing something into my hand as she did. A small vial. "Lavender oil," she whispered. "For calm. Just a drop on your wrists." I squeezed her hand in silent thanks, then allowed Ren to escort me through the palace corridors. We ascended stairs, turned down passages I hadn't yet explored, until finally stopping before what must have been a door. "The Eastern Terrace," Ren explained. "The Alpha King awaits you inside." Taking a deep breath, I dabbed a drop of Mira's lavender oil on each wrist, then nodded to Ren. He opened the door, announcing my presence, then retreated, closing the door behind me. The air here was different, fresher, carrying the scent of night-blooming flowers and pine from the surrounding forests. A gentle breeze touched my face. "Arya." Evander's voice came from nearby. He moved toward me, his footsteps soft on what felt like stone tiles. "You look beautiful." "So I'm told," I replied with a small smile, though I'll have to trust others' judgment on that. His hand took mine, raising it to brush his lips across my knuckles, a formal greeting that nonetheless sent warmth spreading up my arm. "Will you sit?" I've arranged dinner under the stars." He guided me to a chair, describing as he did so, "We're on the highest terrace of the eastern tower. Below us, the palace gardens stretch to the forest edge. Above, the night sky is clear, stars bright as diamonds against black velvet." "It sounds beautiful," I said softly, touched by his effort to help me visualize our surroundings. "It is," he agreed, taking his seat across from me. I heard the clink of silver, the pouring of wine, but not as beautiful as watching you work in the healing chambers today. My cheeks warmed. "Master Thorn mentioned you were there." I was. His voice had that same quality it had carried the night before in his study. Softer, more personal, the voice of the man rather than the king. "You have a remarkable effect on people, Arya. Even the most stoic guards looked calmer after you'd spoken with them." "The Omega effect again?" I asked, accepting the wineglass he placed in my hand. "Partly," he acknowledged. "But there's something more, something uniquely you. We ate, the meal exquisite, tender meats, fresh vegetables prepared with herbs I recognized from the palace gardens, bread still warm from the ovens." Throughout, Evander described each dish, guided my hand to find the placement of food on my plate, treated my blindness not as an impediment, but simply as a different way of experiencing the world. As the meal progressed, our conversation flowed more naturally. He told me of the United Pack's history, of the great wars that had eventually led to peace under his father's rule. I shared stories of my northern home, the frozen lakes in winter, the brief, glorious summers, the close-knit community that had supported me after my blindness. "Do you miss it?" Evander asked as servants cleared away our plates. "Your home?" I considered the question carefully. "I miss my family, my sister Nora especially, but home." I paused, realizing something I hadn't fully acknowledged before. Home has always been complicated for me. After losing my sight, everything changed. The places I'd known became unfamiliar. People treated me differently. I had to relearn how to exist in my own home. "And did you? Relearn it?" "Yes and no," I admitted. I adapted, found new ways to navigate, to be useful, but I never quite shook the feeling of being peripheral. The blind Omega, to be protected and pitied but never truly seen. Evander was quiet for a moment. Then, surprising me, he moved his chair closer to mine. The heat of him warmed my side. "When I was a boy," he said, his voice low, intimate, "my brother was everything I wasn't. Strong, confident, popular. Everyone looked at him and saw the future Alpha King. Everyone looked at me and saw disappointment." He shifted slightly. "My father never said it directly, but I felt it all the same. The second son who preferred books to battles." "But you became a warrior in the end," I observed. "I became what was needed," he corrected. "But that boy, the one who loved knowledge more than power, he's still here." His hand found mine on the table, fingers intertwining with mine. "Just as the girl who could see is still within you, shaping how you perceive the world even now." His insight startled me, this understanding that my past self remained part of me, influencing how I navigated my darkened world. Few had ever considered that my blindness hadn't erased who I'd been before. "You understand," I said softly. "I'm beginning to," he replied, his thumb tracing circles on my palm, "just as I'm beginning to understand what I felt when you first stood before me at the ceremony." "And what was that?" I asked, my heart quickening. "Recognition," he said simply, "as if my wolf knew yours somehow, across a crowded hall, across all barriers of rank and circumstance. The air between us seemed to thicken, charged with something beyond words. His scent enveloped me, pine and smoke and male wolf, powerful yet somehow comforting. My Omega responded to his alpha proximity, not with the submission expected of my kind, but with a strange sense of completion, as if pieces long separated had finally aligned. A distant howl broke the moment, a palace guard signaling the changing of the watch. Evander's hand tightened briefly on mine before releasing it. "There's something I want to show you," he said, rising from his chair. "Will you come with me? Show me?" I repeated, unable to keep the hint of bitterness from my voice. An interesting choice of words. His hand touched my cheek, thumb brushing gently across my cheekbone. "Trust me, Arya." Something in his tone silenced my protest. I nodded, allowing him to help me from my chair and guide me back into the palace. We walked in silence through corridors that echoed with our footsteps, descended stairs that spiraled downward into cooler air that smelled of stone and ancient dust. "The archives," Evander explained as we continued our descent. "The oldest part of the palace, built into the mountain itself." We finally stopped. I heard the creak of a heavy door opening, felt a change in the air. Warmer here, with the distinctive smell of old paper, leather bindings, and beeswax candles. "Few ever come here," Evander said, leading me forward. "These texts date back to the first pack, before the Great Divisions, before humans drove us into the mountains and forests." "Why bring me here?" I asked, genuinely confused. "I can't read these texts." "No," he agreed, "but you can feel them. Their history, their power." He guided my hand to what felt like a massive book, its cover embossed with symbols I could trace with my fingertips. "This is the Chronicle of Shifting, the oldest known text describing our dual nature. And this," he moved my hand to another volume, "is the Omega Codex." My breath caught. "I thought that was just a legend." "Most do," he said. "A text written by the first true Omega, describing their abilities, their purpose within the pack structure." His voice took on that scholarly quality I'd glimpsed briefly before. "It speaks of Omegas not as subordinate, but as essential. The balance to alpha power, the healers of both body and spirit." He guided me to a stone bench, sat beside me, the ancient book in his lap. I heard pages turning, the whisper of ancient paper. "There's a passage here," he said, "about Omega Sight. About how true Omegas can see beyond physical vision, can perceive the essence of things, of people." He paused. "Like you did with me." "I didn't see you," I protested again, though with less conviction than before. "I just sensed something." "The Omega does not see with eyes of flesh," Evander read aloud, "but with the inner eye that perceives truth, where others see only surface. They know the heart's cry even when lips speak otherwise. They feel the wounds that fester beneath strength." He closed the book gently. "Your blindness, Arya. What if it's not a limitation but a different kind of sight? The kind described here?" I sat very still, his words resonating with something deep within me. Those moments when I'd sensed more than I should have been able to, when I'd known things I couldn't possibly see. Were they more than just compensatory senses? Was it possible my Omega nature had found a different way to see? "I don't know," I whispered. "It seems too convenient an explanation." "Perhaps," he acknowledged, "or perhaps your blindness awakened what was already within you, this deeper sight." His hand covered mine. "Would you be willing to try something? An experiment of sorts?" "What kind of experiment?" "The Codex describes exercises, ways for Omegas to strengthen their perception beyond physical senses." His voice had taken on an eager quality, the scholar peeking through the king's facade. "Simple things at first, identifying objects without touch, sensing emotions without visual cues." "I already do that," I pointed out of necessity. "Yes, but unconsciously. What if you could control it, direct it, strengthen it?" I considered his proposal. What did I have to lose? "All right," I agreed. "I'll try." For the next hour, Evander guided me through exercises described in the ancient text. Some seemed simple, identifying objects he placed nearby without touching them, describing rooms we entered before he told me what they contained. Others were more challenging, trying to sense his emotions when he deliberately controlled his voice and movements. To my surprise, I succeeded more often than I failed. When I correctly identified a small carved wolf figure he'd placed 3 paces away, describing its pose and even the direction it faced, Evander's delight was palpable. "It's extraordinary," he said, returning the figure to my hands. "You're extraordinary." Exhaustion was beginning to cloud my mind, but a strange exhilaration kept me alert. It's as if, once I consciously try to sense things rather than just reacting, I can perceive so much more. The Codex suggests that with practice, this perception can extend even further, Evander said, his voice vibrating with excitement, to sensing events at a distance, to knowing truths hidden from others. Why does this matter so much to you? I asked, genuinely curious about his intense interest. He was quiet for a moment. The southern wolves, he finally said. Their attacks grow bolder, but we still don't know who leads them, or where they're keeping those they've taken. Our scouts return with contradictory information, or don't return at all. Understanding dawned. You think I could help find them? I think, he said carefully, that your unique perception might see things our conventional scouts cannot. He took my hands in his. But that's not why I've shown you this. Not entirely. Then why? Because I want you to understand your own value, Arya, to see that your blindness has given you gifts others can't comprehend. His voice dropped lower, and selfishly, because I wanted to share this place with you. This sanctuary that few know exists. Something shifted between us in that moment. A deepening of the connection that had begun at the mating ceremony. This powerful Alpha King had shared his private world with me, had revealed the scholar beneath the warrior, had shown me possibilities for myself I'd never imagined. Evander, I said softly, his name still unfamiliar on my lips. What is happening between us? His hands tightened on mine. I don't know, he admitted, but I know I don't want it to stop. He leaned closer, his breath warm against my cheek. May I? He whispered. I nodded, heart racing, and then his lips touched mine, gentle at first, questioning, then more insistent as I responded. Heat bloomed between us, the kiss deepening as his hand cradled the back of my head, fingers tangling in my hair. When we finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, I felt changed, as if something fundamental had shifted within my world. I want you as my mate, Arya, Evander said, his voice rough with emotion. Not because you're a true Omega, not because of what your abilities might mean for the Pax, but because when I'm with you, I become myself again, the man I was meant to be, before duty and loss hardened me. I barely know you, I whispered, though the protest sounded hollow even to my own ears. Then know this, he said, taking my hand and placing it over his heart. Beneath my palm, I felt its strong, steady beat. I offer you not just a crown, but my truth, my vulnerability, things I've shown to no one else, he paused. And I offer you my protection, my strength, my loyalty until death. The formal words of a mating offer, ancient and binding. I sat perfectly still, overwhelmed by their significance. You don't have to answer now, he continued softly. Take time. Consider what it would mean. But in that moment, with his heartbeat beneath my palm, with the taste of him still on my lips, with the knowledge of what we might become together, I knew my answer. I accept your offer, I said, the traditional response rising from some deep place within me. I bring to you my healing, my perception, my loyalty until death. His arms encircled me, pulling me against his chest, his face buried in my hair. My queen, he whispered, my mate. And in that moment, in the ancient archive surrounded by the wisdom of our ancestors, I was no longer the blind Omega, the broken wolf. I was Arya, true Omega, mate to the Alpha King, a woman who could see truth beyond sight. I had found my place at last,